All right, let's dive into one of the most, alarming and transformative events any of us have ever lived through, the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to explore how this silent threat really grew into a global challenge unlike any other.
You have to remember, in the very beginning, there was just this profound sense of uncertainty. We were all flying blind. Good, solid scientific data was incredibly hard to come by, and the numbers we were seeing from around the world, they were often patchy, unreliable, and that just fed into the fear.
In this quote, wow, it really captures the sheer scale of the crisis. This wasn't just some localized outbreak or a flu we'd seen before. The threat felt existential, like a challenge to our entire species, connecting every single person on the planet in this shared vulnerability.
So what was it that made this particular virus so dangerous? Let's take a closer look at what we were actually up against and why our usual playbooks just weren't going to work. We all heard it, right? Oh, it's just like the flu. But it wasn't, not even close. The seasonal flu it's a known enemy. We have systems in place for it. This new virus, though, it was a complete unknown that just blew past our defenses and completely overwhelmed healthcare systems that were not ready for it.
And a huge part of the problem was just basic biology. See, you can't fight a virus with antibiotics. That's for bacterial infections. A virus is a whole different kind of biological agent, and that simple fact meant our go-to medical treatments were totally useless. We were basically starting from scratch.
So, faced with this totally new kind of threat, the world mobilized. The whole thing was framed as a war, but it was a war against an enemy you couldn't even see. The response had to be massive because the problem was just massive. This wasn't one single crisis. It was like a chain reaction, setting off multiple health crises all at once, on different continents. Healthcare systems everywhere were stretched to their absolute breaking point.
And the response from governments, it felt like something out of a science fiction movie. You had police being deployed to enforce curfews. We were all being told, sometimes ordered, to just stay inside. These weren't friendly suggestions. They were strict, sweeping rules designed to stop the spread no matter what.
And of course, all those measures had a huge impact that went way beyond just public health. It caused this immense social upheaval. It felt like the rules for our everyday lives were being completely rewritten overnight.
Just think about how deep the changes went. A simple handshake, a universal way to greet someone, suddenly became forbidden. We were told to be careful with our clothes, our mail, our groceries. If you wore glasses, you were even told you should probably get extra eye protection. Our most basic habits had to be unlearned just to stay safe.
This really gets to the psychological side of it all. Being isolated didn't just mess with our routines, it literally changed how we perceive time. If you ever had to do a strict quarantine, you know, those 2 weeks could feel absolutely endless, a personal eternity, totally cut off from the world. And beyond the social changes, then came the economic fallout. Basically, shutting down the entire world sent this devastating shockwave through the global economy. The effects were immediate, and they were severe.
Let's just look at the numbers for a second. In some of the hardest-hit areas, more than 20% of the population got sick. Now, that's not just a health statistic, it's an economic one. When a fifth of your people can't work, businesses can't run, services stop, and the economic strain just becomes unbearable. Governments tried to help with financial aid, but for so many families, $500, it just wasn't nearly enough. In a lot of places, that doesn't even cover a month's rent, let alone food and everything else you need. It really showed the huge gap between the help that was offered and the help people actually needed.
And this isn't a problem that just vanishes when lockdowns end. Historians who study these kinds of things say that a deep recession like this one can take a full decade, 10 years, to recover from. Think about that. 10 years to rebuild what was lost in just a fraction of that time.
So, after all that, what did we actually learn? Let's take a minute to reflect on the lessons from this crisis, the ones we've maybe taken to heart, and maybe the ones we still haven't.
One of the most defining things about the whole pandemic was the constant tug-of-war between politics and science. In a situation that really should have been all about public health, political debates just seemed to constantly overshadow the scientific advice. It led to so much confusion during an already chaotic time.
But the virus itself, it didn't care about any of that. It didn't care about borders or political parties. People in China, Japan, Switzerland, Portugal, really all over the world were facing the same fundamental threat, even if their governments were all responding in wildly different ways. And that brings us to the big one, the final crucial question. We've seen what we're capable of,
both the good and the bad, when we're faced with a threat like this. We've watched our systems bend and, in some cases, break. So after everything, have we truly learned the lessons we need to be ready for the next one? That's really the question we're all left with, isn't it?